Hello out there, and welcome to my video series on how to use Git and GitHub. It's going to be a couple of videos where I go over the basics of using Git and GitHub. There are alternatives to GitHub, but this is what I'm familiar with, so that's what we are going to use. It will be a series of tiny videos. That's the idea, but I rarely can keep it short, so we'll see how that goes. And I will cover various aspects of how to use Git and GitHub. So the current plan is to make these videos. We have the introduction, that's where we are now, and some basic theory and how to install it and create new accounts on GitHub, how to create repositories on GitHub where you can host your code or keep it, save it. The basics commands here on how to interact with GitHub, upload and download your code so that you can work together on a project. We'll see how to set it up in IntelliJ and Rider. There are some steps to go through, so we'll see how that works. I will attempt to show how to set up the semester project so that you can work together as a group, and we will see how to work with various branches and some branching strategies. There are different approaches to working with branches. We will see how to handle merge conflicts. All my students encounter this at some point or the other, and they always just delete part of the code, and then some student is angry because all the work they did last night is suddenly disappeared, and they don't know that they can go back in the version history and get it back and retrieve it. Maybe some more stuff as I move along. So small videos that makes it easier to update them if I need to find some errors or learn some new things, and it's easier for you to select the specific one you need if you need to remember how to handle merge conflicts. Okay, we'll just look this one up. So why am I making this series? Git is widely used professionally, and that means it's very well documented. You can find all kinds of examples, written tutorials, you can find a ton of videos. I have looked at a couple over time and also for this series, and admittedly many of them will be far better than what I make here, but they all tend to use the command line interface, and I wanted to show you how to use the tools through IntelliJ and Rider. So two reasons are the main points here. I'm admittedly no Git wizard. I figured out I try to learn Git, and doing this series forces me to do so. And the other reason is that, well, the same one as for all my videos, I guess, is that I have figured out that my students need to know this, some collection of knowledge and competences, and then I can find a video or some documentation that covers this, and maybe this part represents the command line interface, which might be fine to use, but I wanted to show you how to use the built-in tools, as I mentioned. But then there's some stuff that the video doesn't cover that I have seen that you need in your project. So I find another video that covers less, but there's some overlap. So now I have to say, okay, so you should watch this video but ignore the middle part, and then you watch the other one but you start at 7 minutes and then you find this one. So it's just going to be a lot of different videos covering some parts and then the others. So I figured I would make something that is specialized for you, and I will also reference your semester project and give ideas on how to set it up and how to use Git in that aspect. So there are various tools to work with Git. The common one, I think, is what I see in most of the tutorials, as I mentioned, is the command line interface. You open, for example, Windows command prompt or something similar, and you just write commands in, and you have this text-based UI, and that's probably just great for most people, but it's also increasing the learning curve a bit, I think. There are various desktop apps, some Git GUI standalone apps, which are probably just great, and you can use those. And then JetBrains products like Rider and IntelliJ have their own built-in tools, and since we're working in these IDEs, it just seems easier to use them, and that's also what I'm familiar with. So I'll focus on these tools and ignore the other ones throughout the series. I do have an example case because sometimes I have to show code on how to update it and work with it and merge and branch and that kind of stuff, and it's not all that important what it is, but I just have this local app where I can rate pizza restaurants, and that's a console UI, and you can just do the basic create, read, update, delete of these reviews for myself, right? So I won't be doing the entire app, but sometimes we'll work with it. Okay, so that's enough for the introduction. Maybe I will see you in the next part, or you will see me.